Peace talks in Colombia likely to be extended, plus a decree in Argentina that would transform the country's tax system is blocked. For teleSur's English, I'm Coddy Weddle. This is From the South. Thanks so much for joining us. To begin today, we start in Colombia. That's where the FARC guerrillas have announced that the March 23rd deadline to reach a peace deal could be postponed. Now, the group has agreed to postpone the self-imposed deadline to reach a peace agreement after President Juan Manuel Santos said yesterday that he believed that the deadline should be extended. The government says they need time to reach pending agreements in several issues still being negotiated in the Havana peace talks. And women in Colombia have launched a campaign to support a final peace agreement. With more on that story, we turn to our correspondent there in Colombia, Natalia Margarita.
As a final peace deal nears, renowned social and political women leaders have launched the 1 Million Women for Peace initiative, a nationwide network aimed to draw massive citizen support for the peace agreements between the government and the FARC guerrillas.
As soon as those agreements are signed, there will be a very short space of time for the Colombian people to say yes or no to what has been agreed in La Habana. And the women of Colombia want peace, and we want a peace with great legitimacy, a peace that has support of the Colombian population.
The exact mechanism that will be used to ratify the final peace accord is still being discussed by the negotiators in Havana, but what is known is that citizens in Colombia will have to go to the polls to endorse or not the peace agreements.
Whatever the mechanism they agree in Havana, it will require the people's will in Colombia, and we women must decisively work towards the approval of the peace deal. We need to draw millions and millions of votes in support of peace.
Each woman joining the network has the obligation to bring 10 more women. That's their strategy to guarantee millions of votes for the referendum process, but also to make visible women's struggle and commitment to peace.
Women's word does not have the same weight, and we are very far from achieving gender equality. And in order to achieve peace, it's necessary to reach political and economic parity so that our efforts and struggle for peace finally get acknowledged.
The 1 Million Women for Peace network also attempts to visibilize women as one of the main victims of forced displacement and sexual violence over the course of 5 decades of armed conflict in Colombia. Natalia Margarita, teleSur, Bogotá.
And one of the most pressing issues which continues to receive little attention there is the presence of paramilitary groups operating in Colombia. Now, the Red Cross has warned that almost 80,000 people are missing in Colombia. Most of the disappearances are linked to those armed groups that have terrorized the country for decades. The local coordinator for the International Red Cross in Colombia said the surprisingly high number surpasses the number of disappeared during dictatorships.
If we compare this situation with military dictatorships in Chile, Argentina, Uruguay and Bolivia, in the 4 countries we're talking about 30,000 disappeared people, while in Colombia we're talking about 45,000 plus, due to not being documented.
Moving on, a Brazilian prosecutor has pressed charges against former President Inácio Lula da Silva and his family. Now, that prosecutor alleges that Lula and his family are guilty of money laundering. The right-wing opposition has seized the opportunity to request preventative detention for the former head of state. Part of the Argentine glacier, check this out, Perito Moreno, collapsed into the sea this morning. There it goes. Similar events occur on the glacier roughly every 4 years, making it a one-of-a-kind spectacle there that's seen across the country. About 4,000 tourists were on the observation deck when the roof of the ice tunnel caved in. Now, scientists believe this is proof that the good health of the glacier. And a controversial decree passed by President Mauricio Macri in Argentina to modify Argentina's tax system was rejected by the opposition majority in the parliament there. Now, the decree aimed at reducing taxes for the wealthiest people in the country and creating a new category to impose taxes on people who live on a minimum wage.
When those who earn less begin to pay taxes, we're giving 100 steps backwards. There's no progress. It's ridiculous that 180,000 people that earn more will pay less taxes and those who earn less will have to begin paying taxes. It's almost 600,000 new people paying taxes. Where's the progress there? I cannot find it.
Concerns are high in Honduras after a court issued an order to retain Mexican activist Gustavo Castro, who was staying at Berta Cáceres' house the night of her murder. Now, Berta's family came out in support of Castro, who was a longtime friend of Cáceres and who was injured during the attack that killed Berta.
The judge ruled for a detention of 30 days. Now we are analyzing if we can take legal action to see if the decision can be appealed or reverted, given that it has no foundation.
Immediately after we heard that our mother was killed, we went to the crime scene, and her body was still there. Even before authorities analyzed the scene, the Security Minister Julián Pacheco was already declaring publicly that they believed it was a crime of passion. That's very, very concerning, because they hadn't even begun investigating the crime, and they were already speaking about the case.
Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro has recalled his top diplomat in the U.S. after the United States renewed an executive order against Venezuela. Now, the order passed by President Barack Obama last year claims Venezuela represents an extraordinary threat for the U.S. President Obama renewed the order for another year. At least 14 cases of Zika have been confirmed in Bolivia in the Santa Cruz province. Authorities are working on a generalized cleanup campaign to avoid an outbreak there. And Chilean authorities have issued a red alert in the Valparaiso region due to a wildfire which has already burnt 10 hectares of land. A yellow alert was also issued for the Cachapoal province, where another fire has burnt around 123 hectares of land. A disillusioned Islamic State group defector has leaked secret registration files. Now, the documents reveal the personal details and names of over 22,000 supporters of that militant group to a British journalist. According to Germany's interior minister, the stolen documents can be assumed to be genuine. He added that the information could help with the prosecution of IS fighters and help prevent future recruitment to the militant group. U.S. President Barack Obama offered a red carpet welcome for Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau at the White House today. Now, this visit puts an end to a frosty period in U.S.-Canada relations. The two leaders spoke about their renewed relations and their shared goals of combating climate change.
That the relationship, the friendship between our two countries goes far beyond any two individuals or any ideologies. I have tremendous confidence in the American people and look forward to working with whomever they choose to send to this White House later this year.
I'm especially pleased to say that the United States and Canada are fully united in combating climate change. As the first U.S. president to visit the Arctic, I saw how both of our nations are threatened by rising seas, melting permafrost, disappearing glaciers, and sea ice. And so we are focusing on making sure the Paris Agreement is fully implemented, and we're working to double our investments in clean energy research and development.
European Union interior ministers are examining the recent draft deal struck with Turkey to curb immigration. Now, the EU has offered Turkey billions of dollars in aid and to speed up Ankara's long-stalled EU membership talks. The aim of the deal is to also break the grip of human smugglers who have sent refugees on perilous journeys across the Aegean Sea. While the EU and Turkey hammer out the details of their deal, the United Nations warns that mass expulsion of refugees is illegal.
Among my concerns is the potential for collective and arbitrary expulsions, which are illegal, border restrictions which do not permit determination of the circumstances of each individual, violate international and European law.
The European Central Bank has cut all 3 of its interest rates and expanded asset buying in an attempt to boost the economy there and prevent ultra-low inflation from becoming entrenched. Economists are warning that the measure could be only effective temporarily. Presidential elections kicked off in Myanmar with a close aide and former driver of Nobel laureate Aung San Suu Kyi running to be the next president. Suu Kyi looks to rule her former junta-run homeland through a trusted proxy. However, analysts believe that parties allied with the military could try to block her candidate's nomination. An Indian teenage girl who was raped and set on fire last Sunday has died in the hospital. Reports of violence against women such as rape, molestation, abduction, and cruelty by husbands are on the rise in India. Authorities are struggling to prevent further gender violence from occurring. United States Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has called for a strong response against UN peacekeepers who have engaged in sexual abuse.
In the face of this disturbing trend across a number of our peacekeeping operations, it is imperative that our collective response is more effective. My report proposes strong new initiatives in 3 key areas. First, ending impunity. Second, helping and supporting victims. And third, strengthening accountability, including through action by member states.
A new photo exhibition in Gaza honors the victims of the Israeli repression in Jerusalem. Noor Harazin now files this report.
The Progressive Student Labour Front in the Gaza Strip opened a photo exhibition entitled Martyrs Do Not Die at the headquarters of the Al-Azhar University in western Gaza City Thursday morning. More than 90 images honor the Palestinian male and female heroes who registered unforgettable moments in the history of the Third Intifada, such as Muhannad al-Aqabi, Fadi Alwan and Bayan Asaila. Nidal Tuman, leader of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, highly appreciated the organizers' job, pointing out that it confirms that the Palestinian generations are tightly connected when it comes to their struggle against the Israeli occupation.
First, this photo exhibition is held in loyalty to the Palestinian martyrs who sacrificed their lives for their homeland Palestine. Second, the organizers of this exhibition created a panorama which depicts the connection of the Palestinian generations in the courses of the previous uprisings over the past 30 years. It is really such a great work which deserves all the appreciation.
According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, since violence erupted between Palestinian protesters and Israeli settlers at the beginning of October, over 180 Palestinians were killed by the Israeli occupation forces in occupied Jerusalem, the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, and the 1948 occupied territories. Noor Harazin, teleSur's TV, Gaza.
Leading Zambian opposition politician Jeffrey Mwamba was arrested twice last week and has pled not guilty to a charge of training a private militia. Now the charges come ahead of elections there set for August. Pakistan says its cricket team will not take part in the World 2020 tournament in India without a public guarantee from India. Now, Pakistan wants assurances from the host country over the safety of its players. The Pakistan-India match is the most anticipated one of the tournament. The match was shifted to an alternative venue from the original one over concerns about security at that venue. Work has begun in Havana at the venue where the Rolling Stones will perform. They'll perform a free outdoor concert on March 25th. A crew of over 100 people are busy there working on setting the stage for the historic concerts. Now, the free concerts will be a milestone event in a country where the government once banned the group's music as what is referred to as ideological deviation. They just gave us. And that's what we're covering on this Thursday here from Caracas. Be sure to follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For teleSur English, I'm Coddy Weddle. We'll see you back here tomorrow.